Oh, hello. We are recording. Excellent. Hello and welcome to the Confidence Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Bailey. Today we have an incredible man joining us. His name is Sukhi. Now, you know I hate mispronouncing names. Sukhi, could you please pronounce your surname for us before we get going?
Absolutely. My name is Sukhi Wahiwala. So it's kind of like a double barrel there.
Wahiwala, right. Now I will remember that. Thank you. I know we've spoken quite a bit previously, but it's just one of those things. I'm really, really pleased to have you join us today. You're a very different style of guest, in business, spiritual, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation and the audience really getting to know you and what you have to share. So thank you very much for joining us.
Considerable. I'm really honestly, to be honest with yourself, Natalie, I've heard a lot of such great things about the Confidence Mastery podcast, and for me personally, it's a pleasure being here, finding people who are actually seeking their own spiritual, unconscious, conscious confidences, and to hone that, getting through procrastination stuff. So for me, it's the place to be. Love it.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really excited to speak with you again, because you have an amazing history. Your lineage, if I remember correctly, is seven generations.
Yeah, actually spot on. So I'm in business myself, and I run a large group of companies, whether it's real estate, property, to investments, and also mentoring and training individuals on every level with an integration of spirituality, structurality, and results and support through mastermind programs. But that's kind of like today. But periodically, sadly, my father, Randeep Singh Wahiwala, and my mother, Gurmeet Kaur Wahiwala, are no longer with me, but they were without a doubt, they were my core sort of mentors. And I am a seventh generation in a lineage from the Punjab and the royal courts of Ranjit Singh Ji, which is Maharaja Ranjit Singh Ji, where my elders, which was an elder called Kanhaiya Singh, were connected. And basically, we've been understanding very clearly with kind of three essence in one's life, and that is basically keeping the spirituality focus, which is the religious focus, helping with other people, like supporting them, building houses, helping them to get themselves on their feet with knowledge, and also with business acumen. So we really I feel very blessed that I've not really understood any other journey but that.
It's incredible, really, when you think about it. That many generations of, and in it, like in that family, there's so much knowledge that's passed on through the generations that can be lost. And I think that's something that's missing from modern life, like that, having that family unit, going back to like what my grandparents taught me, like about their life, about their parents. And I miss them every day because they're no longer with us either. And I think I wish I could ask you this question.
Yeah.
What would you say to people that aren't spending time with old people?
Yeah, the elders. Now, do you know, Natalie, personally, I think you've just smashed it, and you made me quite emotional because that's actually core to my life. But I'm going to advance a conversation for yourself, because what you're doing right now, through this podcast series, the whole of the Confidence Mastery podcast, 180 plus episodes, that's not to be sniffled at. This is your body of work, and what the elders couldn't do due to technological, held-backs or lifestyles that they couldn't manage, you couldn't write stuff down, you're now stepping up in a completely different realm and serving your community, but actually the world at large, eternally, hopefully, through this podcast body. But I will say one more thing as well, is that sometimes on a spiritual level, we think they're gone. And of course they have gone. But as long as you're remembering them, there's a bit of a profile of them that sits and resides within you. So whenever you recall a question and say, I wonder what Granddad would have said, what happens is accidentally, I teach this with my Synagus methodology, it accidentally, you kind of like, if you could just, by the way, please do understand this is just a metaphoric conversation, but you kind of like take your own head off, and you can pick Granddad's head on and put it on your shoulders and think, what would Granddad do? Or what would Grandma do? What would you say at this particular point? Which way should I go? The juxtaposition, left or right? Take action, no action. And that within itself is magical. And then obviously remember to put your own head back on. So it's not, to sound funny and it's amusing, but it really is a deep sense of understanding, because I talk and I specialize on business strategy, structure, planning, growth, leverage and structuralization of companies. But I really enjoy the head. And what we're doing is we're compartmentalizing the mind, the thought, to a stage where it can work on your command. And that's really what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to give people an understanding of what we call the conscious brain and the spiritual brain, the spiritual brain, the heart center, which you're very, very au fait with in your audience as well, because we've spoken about this before. But getting them aligned, and the moment they can get them aligned, bang, bang, magic happens and things don't hold back. And that's just a little synopsis of I believe they're still kind of there. We've all been in situations where you've bubbled something and say, oh, Dad said you used to do that. Oh, where'd that come from? Grandma used to do that, or you're doing something and you go, she used to stir it like that. What happened here? And it's inside us.
I always say they live on through us, and everything we do and the actions that we take, they taught us, and we keep them alive by talking about them. And I'm glad you said that as well. Like, you shouldn't stop talking about people because they're no longer physically with us.
I genuinely believe, a little plug for Disney here, but we earn nothing out of this, but it's the truth. And there's a lovely, I think it was around 2018, when a cartoon, we call them cartoons, don't we? But they're animations these days. But an animation came out and it was called Coco. If you've listened to it, watched it, you'll understand where we're going with this. But if you haven't, go to Disney, wherever it is, Disney Plus, download it, do what you want to do, but watch Coco. And you have just said exactly what the Mexican, and basically any from South America tends to believe, that if you are in memory of an elder, then they still reside and are alive in the afterlife. And until the person alive in this realm physically remembers that person, they will still be there. And the moment that happens, the moment that the last person who's alive who remembers that person, then they move off into an infinite world as well.
That's actually giving me goosebumps, because today is the Day of the Dead.
I didn't know that. So we're talking about it today, the 1st of November. I didn't realize it was today.
Yeah, it's Fiesta in Spain, and everywhere's closed. It feels like Sunday, but it's the Day of the Dead, and it's a 3-day thing. But today. So
what an amazing understanding there. So I strongly suggest everybody watch Coco, because it actually resides around the Day of the Dead. It's actually oddly today I bring in the conversation.
You couldn't make it up, could you? Like, it's just.
Oh, goodness me. How the ether works. How the ether works is wonderful.
It is. And a lot of people think that business and spirituality don't go together. But for you, they very much do. And the more and more I look into it, and I've gone down the rabbit hole, I just see the infinite possibility of spirituality opening up. How, for you, do you make it work and allow people to explore that for themselves as well?
Bam. What a deep question. It's layered, but I sometimes feel that I'm not qualified enough to share that question, but I can share it on my own journey if I can. So my own understanding, little, right, wrong, whatever it is, in a humble way. Money doesn't get you wisdom. It gives you access to royal, things that can make you money, for example. It may give you access to a lifestyle. So that's business for you. But reality of life is that, there's an old myth, if I can just start with this, where people sometimes say that the rich are unhappy and the poor are happy. It's not quite true. I think it's down to just humans who are happy or unhappy. Now, sometimes we can be quite wealthy and be very lonely and unhappy. But on the same token, we can also be wealthy, connected convivially with people we love, and be very happy. Because there is a myth that people think that happiness is not bought by money. You should earn money. I'm a Sikh, British-born Sikh, and we've been in here since 1934 in England. My elders have been here for quite some time. So we believe as Sikhs that you should have everything that you want in life. So this is the core of spirituality and practical business, for example, strategy. There is no difference. There is only one. Us humans are a spiritual being, whether we agree or disagree, doesn't matter, we're spiritual. And the real understanding of this is that we're very convivial, which means we like to have conversation with people with like minds, like we're doing today, and everybody who's watching and listening, you're listening to your podcast. But that's because we have a 9-month gestation period in our mother's womb. For 9 months, thereabouts, it could be 8, it could be whatever the times schedules are, but we're connected to another human being. That's where the sources come from. So whichever way we see it, all of us as human beings are very soft-centered inside. If we really answer the question, we are spiritual, we are connected to another spiritual being. You weren't saying anything inside the womb, but your mum and you were connected somewhat symbiotically, and kind of like a little kick in the different place would have made sense to a mother, and a slight rub would have made sense to an unconscious child. Does that make sense? So there's always that language of telepathy in some form. So this leads to some form of spiritual understanding. I believe the people who are spiritually attuned with themselves are the ones who attain happiness, but also, in some cases, attain wealth as well. So going back to that original conversation, you said just a moment ago about people, what I said a moment ago, where money doesn't buy you happiness. Well, it gets pretty close. Money can give you a lifestyle that might be practical. That doesn't mean we become egotistical with it. You live abroad, and a few days ago, was it yesterday, you were here in sunny England. And if you didn't have the finances to do so, you wouldn't have been able to shift and go back home abroad into Spain and be there as well. Does that make sense? So you can imagine that finances are that important, are they not? Because they need to be in your life in order to have some form of accessibility to things that you enjoy, energy, that focus. So going back to the story of spirituality and business, we are spiritual beings. We're convivial, connected beings. And I'm not telling you about hocus pocus, we'll make a carpet fly, etc., even though there is evidence that that was the case once upon a time. I don't want to go down to that rabbit hole in conversation, but if I can keep it focused on what we're talking about, that we as the Wahiwalas have been brought up with spirituality, religion, which is Sikh religion, but it's not Sikhism, because the ism was put on by the British Raj in 1902, but it's Sukhi, which means it's a philosophy. And the philosophy itself is a very natural, balanced philosophy where it allows everything to be everything. You can see, if you want to see the universe, aka God, in everything, you can. And if you choose not to, you can as well. But the key here is to have 3 core tenets of one's life, which is working hard. That means honorable work, so that's where business comes in. Then we have what we classify as Nam, which is also about meditation, self-connection to the ether, to the world, but whichever you look at it, whether it's self-meditation, self-resonance. Does that make sense? And then finally, the edge of tithing, zakat for the Muslim community, seva for Sikhs and Hindus, where this means to be of service to others without any expectation. So whether that's gifting food, clothes, or just physically having a conversation with somebody, or being, standing in a charitable shop somewhere. And this is intrinsic to Sikhs. So how does that relate to business per se? In accordance with the founder of the Sikh religion, which is a gentleman called Guru Nanak, Guru means a teacher, from Gu, which is dark, and Ru, which is light. So it's a person who takes you from dark to light. That's principally all Guru means. It seems to be a buzzword these days where everyone says gurus and whatever, but this is basically, they're not God. They're not anything but another human being with an enlightened state. So Guru Nanak, who's the founder of the Sikh faith, he says very clearly that you should have everything in your world. If you want something and it's ethical, moralistic, then you should have it. That means you should set yourselves little goals. You should have a family. You should have children. You should be married. If you want a house, you should have the house. If you want a car, you should have a car. And in order to do this, you should have kirat, which is basically honorable work. Now, the honorable work means it's got to be consciously fair. It's got to be honest. Whether you're running the business or whether you're an employee, it's still the same.
Okay.
You should earn as much money as necessary to deliver on your own needs in life. The key here is to be connected so that you can manage your ego and your other sins.
That's an interesting take on ego being a sin. I think you need a little ego, but probably not in the way that spirituality divides it out. And I think this stuff fascinates me, and I think we could probably really go down a rabbit hole there.
But you've
And
just smashed
I do
it.
think,
May I just, my apology, I'll just interrupt you. I do apologize. I am with you where ego has two versions. It has an ego, which is quite a negative and only ends up in blindness. And there's an ego, which is, I suppose you could say, self-identity and resonance. You have a name, I have a name. You know, we shower daily. Why? We you know, do ourselves up. We wear nice clothes. We dress well, etc., etc. Why? We call ourselves by an identity. Why? That's good ego. The stuff that actually calls you an identity. So just wanted to bring that up. And then the bad stuff is when it makes you blind.
yes,
Me, I'm the one who did this and I did that. And it's not realizing that there's the resonance of spirituality within you, the essence of Lord.
definitely. And I think there's also a bad connotation with ego and confidence, and people seeing that as a level of arrogance. There is a fine line between confidence and arrogance,
Yeah.
which I hope I'm on the right side of.
Yes, absolutely. Could I add a little bit to that?
Yes, please.
Okay, so confidence and arrogance. So arrogance is when you're confident, but it's everything has to be about you. And it's about when there's four psychometrics. So we have a dominant, an influencer, a stability, and a compliant individual, which if you're into colors, that would be classified as dominant red, influencer yellow, stability green, and compliant or conscientious blue. Yeah, so if they're the four colors. The challenge we'd face is every one of these four focuses or profiles, these inner profiles, will have a challenge in this world, bar none. Each one will be either arrogant without any conversation because of the fact that they feel that they are the ones who created it all. So they lose themselves in their blindness of arrogance, not realizing that there is an ether, there's a world, and there's a community in the world, and you're just a part of it, etc. Then you've got the I energy, who tends accidentally to be arrogant, that everybody loves them and they want to be their best friend. Yeah, and they're very, very jovial all the time, the yellow color. And then you have the S energy, who tends to be devoid of arrogance. They tend to be in service of others all the time, the green energy, you know, the helping of others. And then you have the compliance, which can be quite arrogant if they think they're superior with knowledge, because that's the key. And so what I'm trying to say is that the confidence should be somebody who knows how to do something well, and they can repeat it with a strategy and a structure. That breeds confidence. But arrogance is when I'm the only one who can do it, and do you want to work with me, yes or no? You know, that's the air of just that edge of ego, confidence, and arrogance.
Which people, thank you very much for that detailed explanation. And I think that that's something that the listeners should take note of. You can be confident and not arrogant, especially if you come from a place of service. Yes. So for me, this podcast, it's all about the listener. And obviously, I mean, I enjoy having the conversations that I do. It is a like passion project for me. I love having interesting conversations with people. But ultimately, this is for the listener to get something out of it, for them to help with their mindset and their confidence and to unlocking their life, which is the tagline, and which is something that you very much help people do.
With gratitude. Do you find sometimes, and I was just searching for a link, but I'll share it with everybody later if you're interested. I've got a 7-step strategy, which we're talking about confidence and action, procrastination. I'm happy to share the 7 steps as a link with your audience if they want to listen to it or would like to watch it. It's on a free, it's on a YouTube, for example. It's very open. And it's a process called DFT. So I think this really connects. Your way of questioning is just superb. And it's now taken me into another frame of coordination and step and strategy, which is also a part of structure and success. Success within itself, if I may share, I've got a simple formula of success. Success to me, and the way we've been taught in our Wahiwala sort of like lineage, has been really simple. Achieving what you want to achieve, what you've set out to achieve with a plan, and completing it. That's it. So whatever you are trying to achieve, get clarity, put a plan in place, taking action, achieving that goal is success in any context. Even when we're getting onto this Zoom call, to get onto this podcast, to get onto the YouTube channel, to watch and get on there. This takes time. Somebody's going to set the time, listen, open the email, click through the link, or if they're regularly following your podcast, which thousands are on the planet, they're going to set some time aside. So there's a conscious decision. So they put a plan in. Well, I'm going to pick it up at 7 o'clock in the evening this evening, and then they'll come and they'll watch and they'll listen and they'll learn. So that's a very simple understanding of success. But within there is an understanding of self-reflection, of being able to see oneself. Now, we'll talk about wisdom if you want at the end, but if I can just share with a process called DFT, that's daily focused time. I've written it under my methodology with gratitude. Again, when I say I, please understand, everybody who's listening, it's not an arrogant me. It's just so you've got a focus of who's speaking. So I've written a methodology called the Synergus method. And the Synergus basically is an ancient word. Syner is an ancient word of two becoming one. Synchronize, synergy, just to level two understanding. So it's two items synchronizing, two items synergizing. Does that make sense? So the word comes from there, and the gus is more gus. It is a Hebrew word for God. It's an ancient Hebrew word for God, or for the divine. And the divine could be the universe. It could be a spiritual realm, whatever you want, whatever suits you, because there is no discipline around that. It's inside you anyway. So the divine. So you have the divine, you have synergy. So if you bring them two together, when people start to work under the Synergus method, what we do is we relearn ourselves, we connect to our own spiritual divinity, and that within itself aligns our conscious brain and our unconscious brain in a direct resonance and direct dialogue, which then makes us be able to sort of think on the spot, be aligned with our destiny, take the action that's going to serve us, and be very moralistic and humane under the collective consciousness within us. So we're always aligned in a conscious manner. So once you're in that state, let me share this, there is no such thing as procrastination or a need to further unlock yourself, because you're starting to connect head and heart. If I can share, there's a 7-step process.
Please do tell us more.
Would I? Yeah. Okay. So the 7-step process is going to give you, if anyone's listening, that this 7-step process is going to give you the ultimate on-demand opportunity and ability to align your head and your heart, and to be absolutely confident, which is what this is all about, and aligned with self moralistically, which means that you're never going to make a mistake and you're going to be fully committed, and procrastination goes out the window as well. So I know we had a conversation on procrastination at an event that I spoke at yours. That's why we're here today. This process is a 7-step process. It's called the DFT process. And there are 2 versions. I'm going to cover DFT clarity today, if I may. There is DFT focus. Focus is, you can watch it on the YouTube channel. The clarity side of things is what we call it's a meta challenge that you're facing. Maybe people, if somebody's listening today and they've got a challenge where they've got a meta problem, that means basically they've got an emotional problem, an emotional block. Maybe if they're a salesperson, they were doing amazing, and all of a sudden they've lost the confidence, as we're using the words that we were talking about, lost the confidence in selling. That doesn't mean they can't sell anymore, but something's gone adrift. If they were a person who is, I don't know, running, or like yourself, literally, an elite athlete, and all of a sudden something changes and they stop being focused in that moment, and they stopped delivering on their own choices and their own needs, and they've started to double check or procrastinate in some way. This is the process that's going to resolve it, which is called the clarity model. So this is a DFT clarity. DFT in this case stands for direct, focused thought, DFT, direct focused thought. So it's actually an internal question of where am I directing my focused thought, if you understand what. So this is under the Synegus method. So this is something that we've delivered to the world, and I'm so humbled and honored that the people who are utilizing this, they are smashing it, because this is an ancient methodology that's been shared with me and my family. I've given it a framework and made it much more, linear for people to follow with more practical steps. But this is how we've been taught to live our life from day one, the whole Wahiwala clan. So I'm sharing with you some personal family.
I love it.
Value. Thank you. So 7 steps. The 7 steps. Step 1, which is like a pre-step. The pre-step is always about, we call this an inquiry. An inquiry. An inquiry is literally a question. Now, the question itself, because this is a clarity, it could be something along the lines of, if you're facing an issue with a job, you're not clear, you're procrastinating upon something, you're not sure, but somehow you're not feeling powerful anymore. You're not feeling as though you can think straight. You're overwhelmed in some way. You're distracted constantly. You're doing 10 things instead of 1. Well, this is where you use the principle of direct focused thought. Where am I directing my focused thought? And you use the clarity method. So this removes plugs, removes blocks, removes restrictions in your thinking, and just aligns the head directly with your spiritual center, which the spiritual center is what we're trying to access. I believe genuinely, and I'm sure we all do, that we are the universe. The whole is in the part, and the part is in the whole. So that means we are the universe, and the universe is within us. Does that make sense? And I know it's a very esoteric comment, but that means basically, if it's possible, we can do it. Principally, if it's possible, I mean, I am just astounded that you pick up such heavy weight for your sport. It's like, what the? But if it's possible, you can do it. If you believe that you can do it, you can do it. So the understanding is, what I believe is true. Whatever I believe is true. So if I believe I cannot, we now go to Fordism, and we'll say, Henry Ford said, if you believe you cannot, then you cannot. Simple.
When I had to hit my personal best, I went into the gym and I was like, right, I'm going to do this. This is it. Today is the day. I'm going to do it. Because the day before I couldn't do it.
That's it.
I went, well, I'm going to do it. Set up the camera, and I did it, and I picked it up. It's all in the mind. Thank you.
It is. Now, we say it's all in the mind. And before I give you my 7 steps, I had a funny conversation. Once I was on stage, and this is quite humorous for people. And I was on stage, and I was talking about the mind. I'm saying the mind is the key. It's the conscious unlock of the infinite unconsciousness. Does that make sense? So we demand something, or we command is a better word. We command something of self, and then all of a sudden we produce it, which is what you've just done. You said, well, today I'm going to do it. That's it. We're going to do it. So how do you get to that stage is the conversation. And could it be on tap? The answer is yes. But my point to yourself is that whatever we say is what we become. So in other words, what we believe is going to be true. Yeah. So this means that, are we self-programming ourselves consistently? Yes, absolutely. So your unconscious mind, if I can just get there before I give you the 7 steps, the unconscious mind is nothing more, nothing less than your, I suppose, if I could say, like a genie. You know, like the old cartoons, right? You rub the genie, you say, genie, genie, and it comes up and it says, your wish is my command. So all of a sudden you say, I want X. The genie says, your wish is my command, it shall be done. And off the genie goes. Just imagine the unconsciousness being just that. Is access to the universe. If you ask it of yourself and say, I want to be confident, and no matter what, I want to be strong enough to lift that, the 150, 160 kilos that you're lifting. It's like, I want to lift it. I'm going to lift it today. All of a sudden, the unconscious genie is saying, your wish is my command. No problem. We'll do it. And until you directly, clearly, focusedly, in a focused manner, ask that question, it doesn't create. It doesn't do it, because it's like, it's a bit, I think the word I'm looking for is a bit confused. It's a bit lost. You can ask yourself something like, well, I'm not sure if I can do this. Well, then that's basically scuppered the chances immediately, because the unconscious brain saying, he doesn't want to be sure. She doesn't.
Yes.
So I'll
That's
produce.
why I always say, don't try, do. As soon as you say I'll try, you immediately set yourself up for failure.
I love it. You're a Jedi, really, aren't you? That's what it is. You're an absolute Jedi. That's a Star Wars reference. If nobody doesn't, if any of the young
I've
kids don't.
never watched Star Wars.
But I'm going to share something. We have, obviously, he's real, right? We have Yoda Master, and he says that there is a do or do not. There is no try. It's like you're
Yeah.
going to do it or you're not going to do it. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to keep it all tight. So when we talk to ourselves, whatever action we ask of ourselves, our inner genie produces it. If we say we can, then we can. If we say I am not sure, then the unconscious brain says, I don't think they want to be sure. Let's keep wobbling them around. And if it's I can't, then they'll say, oh, we need to produce I can't. It's simple as that.
I love that.
Yeah, and you're living evidence of this, and actually so am I, because when you, I didn't share this before, but I used to be a weight trainer when I was younger. So I used to be an actual, not a powerlifter, actual bodybuilder, and I used to build, and I got to a big 56-inch chest. So one day maybe I might put a bit of a picture on YouTube or somewhere like that, but not today. But I used to bench press 160, 150, 253 kilos, but bench press, not bench press. I was very big. So what did I used to tell myself? Let me tell you, in that moment when I was training, if anybody's training, if I can help in any way, you're obviously the more superior in the current mind. But when I was training, I used to think on, not of, think on the actual muscle that I'm functioning. And I could visualize the blood pumping to that muscle because I knew it was going to break down its proteins, it was going to break down its cell membrane. And I was imagining it breaking down and getting bigger. I don't know whether you can understand. It's like something pushing through. So I could imagine my muscle getting bigger. And then I used to very much so be aligned with, am I using the right cluster or the right independent muscle? So it was like thinking on it. So I got big very quickly because nobody could understand. And they thought I was taking anabolic steroids. And I'm talking about 1990, circa 1991, 92, 93, that sort of time frame. So there's no chance I was taking steroids, and I wasn't. I wouldn't do it anyway. So my point is that even my trainer, his name is Mike, brilliant fella, unbelievable guy. He used to say to me, Sukhi, listen, you're doing something that's really good. Well, I owe that to my mindset and also to my sister, Brenna.
Mind-muscle connection.
Yes, mind-muscle connection. That's right. And I worked to that mind-muscle connection and to my brain, to my focus on the muscle that I was working on. But also the inspiration I had was from my sister, because she used to, in those days, she's older sister, and she used to basically do my food plan. And she's been a nutritionist and a biotech when it comes to biological parts of food chain. She used to test it. And so she would deliver a meal plan that was just unbelievable. So I was eating the right amount of everything, training 5 days a week, and I just went pop. It was just amazing. It was like I felt so good. I felt great, and I was going, yes, that's a good bicep. Yes, that's a good bicep. It's disappeared now because I'm getting on a little, and I don't train at all. So there we are. So my point is mind-muscle connection. Yes. So I used to think on my muscle, of my muscle, and I used to actually work out, is it the right muscle? And it's about nuance. It's about if you're lifting something like this. At the moment, I'm lifting with my shoulder, but if I push my arm against a wall, I've got no chance of my shoulder working, and I can just lift, and it's just going to be the bicep. So little things that we learned, because I could feel the muscle, and I was like, I'm not using the right muscle here. What can I do to change that? And I'd always ask questions because I'm a questioner, but I then, once understood, I would take action on it. So now going back to the 7 steps, I hope that's helped somebody who's listening. What I believe on is true. What I believe is true. What I believe on gets bigger. My genie, the universe, when Jim Rohn used to say, the universe is conspiring for your success. Well, the universe is no other reference but the divine, whether it's God, whether it's the universe, whether it's your favorite tree, whether it's your elders that have passed, and you think that they're looking over you. That's absolutely true, because it's your truth. Nobody is going to be that arrogant to challenge people's personal truth. Does that make sense? As long as you're in alignment with something, most importantly, having faith. Faith equals having a belief in something outside of yourself, which within itself is an anti-ego or negative ego action, isn't it?
Yes.
So if you think of that, there has got to be something, a divine path, a destiny, a karma, a kismet, whatever you want to call it, then all of a sudden we start to believe that there's a path and something's supposed to be. I'm supposed to be doing something in action. So I'm going to go back to the 7 steps for me. So first step is an inquiry. The inquiry always resides around what is the question at hand. So if you're asking for a DFT clarity, which is like a mind block or something that's holding me back from taking action, I'm sitting on procrastination, I can't think straight, I'm overwhelmed, I'm completely exhausted, I don't sleep well. All these elements all come from the same seed. And the same seed is a fear of something, and a lack of clarity of something, a semi-stagnation in the current life. That means the current task one's doing, because some people are driven by goals, some people are not. So if you're a goal driver, if you're a person who shifts by goals, I'm going to get that big, you're alive. So you're awake, you wake up in the morning, you spring out and you get on, you keep to a regime and you focus yourself up. But if you're a person who isn't clear on a goal internally, then what happens is you wake up and you go, oh God, I'm tired. I've got an ache here, I've got an ache here, 5 minutes longer, snooze. So it's a deep question of, are you a snoozer, a snooze button person, or are you not? Are you a jump out of bed person or a snooze button? And that's a great reference point to understand what state in my life am I at. If you're a person who's snoozing the snooze button and waiting the 7 minutes and getting up later, you need to be asking yourself some deep questions. And you need to DFT clarity to get the block out of the way. But if you're getting up in the first bell, or in some cases, like myself, I wake up 5 minutes before my alarm goes off, and my alarm, because I set the alarm, so I've set the alarm, 5 o'clock, I wake up at 4:50. There's no point going back to sleep because I'm awake. So I get up and I switch the bleeding alarm off. Does that make sense? So if you're in that space, then you're alive. You've got a mission, you've got a purpose, you're focused, you're driven by something. Something's not pushing you, but pulling you. It's driving clarity. It pulls you towards an outcomed goal. But if you're the other person, but there's no wrong and right. This is just a reference point to identify your current state of mind. If you're a person who's a snoozer, then ask yourself, am I even stretching myself? Am I even living? Am I pushing myself, my barriers a little bit at all? No, you probably find no. You probably haven't set yourself a goal. And if it is a goal that's still not pulling you, I'll tell you now, you need to 10x it. It's too small. Some people, they wake up and they go, well, I'm going to make 10,000 this month because I help people in business. Yeah, we're going to put 10,000 more on. And then 2 months later, they still haven't really grown at any exponential level. So I ask them a simple question. I says, I've got somebody in mind that right now I'm talking about. I said, so can I ask you a question? Is there any reason why you went so small and said 10K a month? And all of a sudden the physiologist goes, well, what do you mean so small? £10,000 a month, that's £120,000 a year. That's not small. And I said, well, it's obviously too small for you. Because if you 10x'd it and said, I want to earn 100,000 a month, you'd get very frightened. But if you had 1.2 million pound coming in a month, wouldn't that be a nice place? And I went, uh-huh. I said, so it just tells me that you don't stretch yourself enough to put a plan forward. I said, so why don't we turn around and say I want to earn 100 grand? So now let's get serious about how can I even earn 100,000? What is the structure in business that I can create to serve me at 100,000 pounds? And then on the same token, it's the spiritual side. You see how it's connected? I have to get my spirituality cleaned, clear, aligned, focused for me to be able to achieve the practical side of life of £100,000 a month.
100%.
Yeah. So inquiry, step 1, inquiry. An inquiry should start with who, why, what specific, how, or what if I didn't do it type of thing. Yeah. So let's look at, if I can, your next jump. So let's say you're doing what is the real squat that you're doing right now? Is it 150, 160? I can't remember now.
160 was my personal best. What am I doing at the moment? I'm not actually squatting at the moment. I'm hack squatting.
Okay.
So from 150, I would want to get to the next, well 200 at some point.
Wow. Bleeding hell. Now that's a biggie. Now 200, can you see this?
That's made my face move.
Yeah, but you see 200, that's big enough. Do you understand that? Because you're a very, very, very tough, driven, self-driven person who helps thousands on the planet. something like that has to be the case. It has to be really big. Do you understand that? To really push you, you need to be turning around and saying to yourself, okay, because at the moment you've done 160, by the way, that's no small feat. But you need to be asking yourself a question. Okay, so what? Now we're doing the what. What specifically? It could be something like this. I'll give you all four outcomes. So I'll say, who's going to benefit? Who's going to benefit if I do 200? Why would I even want to do 200? Now you're given it a context of 200 kilos. It's frightening thinking about it. But you ask yourself, who's going to benefit from this and why? So who's going to benefit from this and why would I even want to do that? What's the benefits to me? That's kind of like a good driver if you're a dominant D character, a red type character. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Somebody's got some nice hair. So for that, if you ask that question of yourself, you would ask yourself a context of 200 kg squat. So why would I want to do it? Who's going to benefit in specific the 200 kg squat? Okay, so that would be a good question if you're a dominant D. If you're an I, it could be about an I meaning a yellow color, an inspirer, an influencer. You would say, how could I do this? How could I not just do this? How could I lift 200 kgs? So that's a nice question to ask as well. How could I lift 200 kgs? What do I need to get done? Then you have the what ifs. So what specific, sorry, the blue color. And the blue color would say, what specifically, what steps specifically do I need to do, achieve an action in order to hit my target of 200 kilogram squats? Okay, then the final person is the S energy. Well, what would happen if I didn't do it? That's the soft energy. But what would happen in my life if I didn't do this? Maybe I've got a friend, a best friend, or in some cases, a child or a parent or somebody who's relying on me to do it. Because when I do it, I'm going to prove to them, can you see, I've moved 40 kilos up, you can do it too. So maybe that could be a good driver for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense. Because when I posted the video of me deadlifting 150, somebody said, but why? Like, because I can.
Because I can. Absolutely. Now, you won't go beyond it. And I think you're right. You won't go beyond it until you dug deeper and say, well, then why would I? Why would I do it again? And then, so you could even create a bit of a rhythm of questioning, and you could do a DFT saying, who's going to benefit from it? Why would I even do it? How can I do it? What specifically are the steps that I need to do? And what would happen once I've done it? Yeah. So you've got a really good thing. Done what? The it bit has to be very functional, has to be 200, a specific 200 kg squat. Officially. Now we're talking. Do you get it? So that thing would bubble. So then what's the next step? Step 2 is we call a mind. Now, keep clear about this, mind dump. A mind dump is used for that reason, because you have to divulge everything on that piece of paper. So you've asked yourself a cool question and you're emptying your brain, everything that's on there, anything. You have to trust the process. And if you're a list maker, you keep it in portrait. So you make lists. So you write the question at the top and you make a list. And if you're a kind of like a jotter or a doodler, you turn the page sideways, a creative type. You turn the sideways and then you put the question in the middle. And you just mind map off, just write as much things as you can on the page. Don't turn the page, keep filling the page, keep filling the page. Does that make sense? And so what you do is you've got to turn around and answer everything that comes in your brain. That means literally like a computer game. If you think about chocolate, if you're thinking about, I fancy a drink, if you think about this, anything. Why did I go to England? Why did I even bother? What a waste of my money. Anything that comes to your brain right now should be on that piece of paper because it's been triggered in the now by that question. So what we're doing is we're ripping up everything from inside your unconscious mind, brain and mind, and getting rid of it onto a piece of paper. If you can liken it like it's a dump. You're dumping everything. So you've got to be
just getting everything out of your head and like every thought process, that everything's connected. Just get it out, because the more that you get it out, the better that you can do with it.
Yeah, without shame though. Without shame, without everything, you're just complete dumping it. You're the only one who's going to read your paperwork. So step 3, you grab another pen, which is usually a red. So write in black, get a red pen. circle, ask the question again to yourself, and take a deep breath, ask the question, get resonant, and circle 10 of the highest connected answers. Does that make sense? The ones that make the most connection to you, that are relevant. Yeah, in whatever mindset you are. So only 10. So you circle the 10, and you pick up those 10 and you rewrite the 10 on a separate piece of paper. And this piece of paper, whether it's sideways or listways, like portrait or landscape, you now get rid of it. You can write on the back of it, no problem, but I just want lists now. So there's no more portrait, it's all, sorry, no more landscape, no sideways, it's all portrait. So you write your top questions, the top answers, not in any particular order. You don't need to worry about that because the unconscious brain will work it out for you. Once you've written those 10, you strike off, and you'll follow the video, and you'll see everything. You get rid of the old list, and you then turn around and look at the 10, and you grab the red pen again. So you've written it in black, get the red pen again, and you read the question again to yourself, and then you circle 5 of the highest, most important ones, and then you rewrite the 5. You strike off the 10, and you go to the next step, which is step, I think it's 4 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 5, you look at your 5, literally 5 and 5, and you ask the question again, and you select the top 3. So the top 3, this is an absolute science between head and heart, conscious, unconscious. So you select your 5, you rewrite the 5, scrub out the 5. So select your 3, rewrite the 3, scrub out the 5. Yeah. Now you've got 3 items, but because this is a DFT clarity, only one should remain. It's going to be like a house of cards. So you then ask the question again, and you select the one of those 3 that's going to be the thing that you need to resolve. All of a sudden, everything falls around you. All of that procrastinational feeling gone.
And all of that overwhelm, too many thoughts in your brain can cause so much overwhelm. Get it out. And yeah, that's an amazing process to go through.
Done in that second, by the way. The second you complete it, you'll go, oh, that's it. And then
that's very wise.
Yes, and then you just action it. Thank you. And that's a 7-step process that you go through. There are some bits once you watch the video, like when you're mind dumping, there's 2 mind blocks that you have to go through. And I'm not going to explain the mind block now because due to time, but 2 mind blocks that you have to go through, and then you stop at the 3rd. But when you watch the video, you'll get an exact answer. But that's 7 steps. I'm telling you, the first time you'll do it maybe once or twice, and all of a sudden, immediately after the first one, you're going to feel, wow, you're going to start to feel really light and go, wow, I feel so clear.
And then the clarity that you'll gain from that will then help with the confidence to go and make the thing happen, because you're not letting all of these things scramble around in your brain. It's actual taking action that you can go and make things happen.
Yeah. So getting your brain clear, decluttering it, which is what this process does. It's actually a spiritual declutter. It's not just a practical declutter. You can write anything down. I don't care whether you say, oh, fancy a kebab, anything you want to write down. You write it down on the piece of paper. It comes out on the paper, but you're focusing on the question. You'll actually just highlight the question. So the purpose that happens here is that you get clear, and acting on that clarity gets you the confidence, instills confidence in your action. Does that make sense? So the action to complete and to achieve gives you clarity.
Love it. And clarity equals confidence.
Can't forget it. Exactly that. Action, clarity, confidence, all one. It's as long as you're doing them and reflecting upon it. That's the most important part. We mentioned it last time.
Self-reflection is very, very important, making sure that you are clear on what it is that you want to achieve. And you touched earlier upon wisdom. And I obviously said this 7-step process is very wise. And I'd really like for you to share some of that with our audience as we bring this conversation to a close, because wisdom's important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you know what? You're a really deep person, and I really appreciate this interview. Thank you very much, Natalie.
Thank you.
Okay, so wisdom itself. Okay, the whole of this principle that I've shared with the DFT process, the Synergist methodology, it sits on a core understanding of learning. Learning is self. Learning anything around you. So when you actually learn anything and create any kind of learning within yourself, there is a 3-step process. And the 3-step process is, in my world, in my methodology, it's called the CUC loop. So what does a CUC loop stand for? The C is the conscious brain. Okay, that means the way you're thinking, what you're asking yourself, the awareness of self, the trigger, the inquiry question that comes from here. The unconscious brain is the you, the conscious, unconscious brain. The unconscious brain is answering for you. Do you understand that? So you're asking a question consciously. The unconscious brain is answering. But then there has to be a conscious, unconscious, ends with the final C of consciousness. That also means that you have to reflect upon what is being written, what is being answered, which is where this process of DFT comes from, uses the conscious, unconscious loop. This is stuff that I've been taught as a child, historically. And the children, my children, with gratitude, mine and my wife's Parvinder's children, they understand this very immediately and very intrinsically and very profoundly. Everything's about a conscious, unconscious consciousness. The only time you get wisdom is when you complete that loop from conscious, unconscious to conscious, because the consciousness at the end reflects upon what was achieved and what was actioned. And only then, when it's complete, can you have wisdom. Wisdom is a reflection upon an action. So every time you close loops, we call it loop closing. All of my mentees know this, and we call this loop closing. If you consistently close loops, that means close open loops, not doing too many things at the same time, type of thing, multitasking and all that rubbish, keeping focused on single task actions and getting them done quicker, then you close the loop by saying, I've completed that. And all of a sudden, you'll have the ability to answer, what did I complete? Well, when you ask that question, when you answer that question with this CU, what did I complete? It basically becomes a reference point to reflect back upon the action happened, which equals wisdom. This is why you have some people who are, with no disrespect, please understand as a metaphoric understanding, that you find some elder people who don't talk with wisdom. It's because accidentally they haven't closed their own loops. And then you find somebody who's a young person who talks wisely. That's because they've naturally closed their loops. What did I learn? What did I learn? What specifically? What am I asking of myself? What have I this is the answer. Have I completed it? Yes, I have. What did I learn? Does that make sense? So this little loop creates wisdom. C-U-C loops. Then what we do is a little gameplay. When somebody feels a bit overwhelmed, does it have you DFT'd? Yes, no. How many loops have you closed? Which means, how long did you spend back to reflect upon what you've achieved today? And then finally, in the CUC loop, there's a little principle that we use, which is called a 55 or 58-2, 58-2, 55-5, whatever it is. Every 58 minutes, take 2 minutes to write down what you've done, not what you've learned from it, just what have I done in the last hour. So every hour, so let's say you've done 8 hours worth of work, you should have 8 sort of like, I suppose, statements of saying, I've done this, 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 this on the hour, right? So at the end of the day, to close the loops, in the day, you can nail it. You can just muscle through it. Does that make sense? You can get this done, that done, that done, that done, that done, that done. But at the end of the day, the key and the solution, or the secret of this is to reflect upon all those 8 actions, and just say, oh, I've done that. Brilliant work. So now I'm in this position. So you're reflecting upon each one of those points. What did I achieve today? And then all of a sudden, wisdom sets in. It just becomes a part of you. You think, wow, I've done that. You feel good. You feel great. You don't feel overwhelmed. You think, my God, how did I get all that work done? etc. And you feel great. And it's a command to self to say, you are moving forward in life. You are progressing. There we are.
I love that. And the more you do that, the more confident you'll get, the more you'll get done. And then that becomes a nice loop as well. So you it's a continuous cycle of growth.
Yeah. That's exactly true. Spot on there.
I love it. Sukhi, this conversation has been absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much for joining us. I know the listeners will be thinking, where can they follow you, find you, and online stalk you? Because we're fans of online stalking, just not in-person stalking.
Oh, well, if honestly, thank you firstly for your wise and heart-warming words of our meeting today and our interview today. And I hope it has been of value to each and every person who's listening. Please do take the time to listen back and listen to the end, which is what I will suggest. So if anybody wants to reach out to myself, my name is Sukhi Wahiwala, and all of my social media handles, they all state Sukhi Wahiwala, whether it's Instagram, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, basically everything you can think of. They're all on there, whether it's the new threads or whatever you want to talk about. I'm on all of them. X, Twitter, the whole lot. Okay. So the thing is, I am one of those weird people who has a mission to help people. So what I'm going to suggest very openly to anybody, if I can help in any way, do not feel uncomfortable. What you do is you go to the Sukhi Wahiwala website. So SukhiWahiwala.com. And on that page, depending on what device you're using, there are 2 amber buttons, and one says mentor me, one says book me. If you want to book me for an event, then that's fine. But if you want to mentor by me, so what you do is you click on there and tap in your details. What will happen is you'll get an automatic text. But the most important thing part here is that actually comes straight to me. So it'll come straight to my phone. My number will be shared with you. I will have it on my SMS. And within 24 hours, I will respond back to you and we'll set a date, jump on a Zoom and see how I can assist.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm sure there will be people that will be reaching out to you with everything that you've shared today. Again, thank you very much. If you could leave people with one tip to be more confident in themselves, what would it be?
A single tip.
Interesting.
Do you know, honestly, confidence is a beautiful outcome of achieving something after that was a planned outcome. And that usually comes after clarity. So I would say the most important tip that I can give you is get clear on what you want to do, which will automatically seed the planning of it. And that will automatically seed the action of it. And that will automatically seed the achievement of it. And the reflection across the whole of this process equals confidence. So becoming confident is the key. It's a key outcome upon reflection. When you close that loop, you will start to get more and more and more confident in yourself without being arrogantly confident. So I would strongly suggest give yourself the time, DFT daily, get clear, get rid of your overwhelm, your distractions in life, and get focused and just take actions and put a plan in place, a small plan if it's a small one, or a big one if it make you work better, but work towards something every day, because this is the only one life that we're given, and it's real. And
it's true, and life is far too short to be miserable.
Yeah, and this isn't a rehearsal. It's it. So why don't we just live? Now, I'm going to leave you on a positive note, even though it sounds somber. May I?
Of course, please.
One of the big liberations I ever got from my life was when my father said to me, son, you're going to die on a set date.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, oh, I don't want to face dying like this age. And he said, well, let me give you an example. It's destined. You've pre-written your death. You're coming. That's when you came here, when you became in existence. Afterwards, you will leave on the set date, set time, set second. He said, but son, the moment you start to realize that you're going to die one day is the day that you actually liberate yourself from your shackles. Because then you start thinking deep. I'm going to go whenever that is. What am I going to do before then? What do I need to achieve?
Yes.
This is one of the big stimulants that work for me in my life and why I've become in service of others. And a real beautiful point is that when you're having a dark moment, if you're having a sad moment or a challenging time right now, remember it is temporary. There is permanence in this life, whichever faith you follow. It is not permanent. It is temporary. It will pass. All you've got to do is give yourself the best opportunity to pass, and that is do DFT for yourself, even in a dark moment. All the darkness will be left, and you'll be left with nothing but light and action and clarity to achieve. And that's for every human being, whether you're a billionaire, millionaire, an employed C-suite, or a person who's starting up in world, or a student. Whatever you are, wherever you are, we all deserve to have the full benefit of this conscious brain. It is the gift. And what we need to do is we need to train it, much the same as you train yourself. It's a muscle. We need to, through neuroplasticity, we need to train it to serve us under command. Does that make sense? And that's
it does. It's what keeps people alive. When you find people die after retirement, it's because they feel they have no purpose and they aren't keeping their brain going. So even if it's simple things such as crosswords and, you know, the little things like that, or Sudoku, or however you say that one, you know, keep your brain alive and be a forever student is something I always say, always be learning.
May I just add something to that, because that's so inspiring. The word Sikh, which is the whole faith religion that I am a part of, Sikh means to learn, which means
Amazing.
an eternal student. It's exactly that's what brought my whole brain up in that conversation. And one of the key things I'm going to say, if you're an elder person listening to this, or you've got people around you who are elderly and they're coming close to retirement, don't retire. That doesn't mean go and don't stop working, you know, day in, day out. When you retire, do not stop. Go and find a new friend circle. Loneliness is what kills us, because we are convivially connected, spiritually connected to other human beings. And when you're with other people, you'll be in service of them. You will carry on living with gratitude.
Yeah. This is something we talk about quite a lot, loneliness, and we could probably talk for another hour on this subject. But we say, we have a phrase, better together, because people need people, and we truly are better together. So thank you for joining us on this journey and this podcast episode. And to everybody listening, thank you very much. I'm sure you all have loved this episode. And if you have, please do share it with your friends, family, loved ones, and even the people you don't like, because everybody needs a little bit of help sometimes. And as Sukhi has said, we are all connected. So again, thank you very, very much. And we will see you on the next one.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Where are you gone?